Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, we got somebody back who hasn't been here for a while. It's very exciting. And we got a returning guest that's coming on that we always love when Prometheus Lens shows up. When Doc Brown is here, he always brings it up to a perfectly comfortable 93 degrees. He's going to turn it up tonight. But before we introduce him, let's introduce the amazing Julia. What's going on? Cosmic Peach is back. How are you?
It's good to be back. And of course, always love working with the good doctor. Can't wait to get into the show tonight.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I'm glad to have you back. And do you want to plug any of your show? Or you got the baby going? I'll let you want me to let Headless go? All right. Headless, go for it real quick. Let everybody know what's the deal with you.
You can find me on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram at the Headless Giant Podcast. And also you can send your occult/mystical/strange dream emails to my email account at headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com. And you too can have your email written on the show and we can break it down and talk about it. We just got done doing that one. And also I've got a show on Sundays called The Trialogues with Ethan Indigo and Ricardo. And also on Mondays, I've started a new show about alchemy. So this next Monday, we're going to be going over the supplies list and the things you need to do alchemy. So that'll be fun. Check that out.
Oh yeah. Yes. And by the middle of November, we will be covering 777 by Aleister Crowley. Ooh, that should be interesting. And it should take about 5 fucking years probably. But but real quick, Julia, do you want to plug your shows and let everybody know where they can find all your work just in case they don't know who you are already?
I mean, of course, yes. I've been actually taking a couple weeks off, trying to get a routine going with the baby. But I have a couple new shows. You can find Cosmic Peach wherever you listen to podcasts. But I watched the new Ed Gein, and it's pretty crazy. And there's a review of that up right now if people want to go check that out. And that's Cosmic Peach Podcast. Thanks, Nick.
Of course. Hell yeah. People, go check that one out for sure. And we got Bennett. What is going on, sir? How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Bennett, the host of Broadcasting Seeds podcast. I'm a veteran storyteller and researcher, and I like to explore the weird edges of history, faith, and reality. You can find me at broadcastingseeds.com.
It has to be into the weird shit to be here, right?
That's it.
Be on this show. And finally, the man himself, Doc Brown, Prometheus Lens. Please, sir, let everybody know what the fuck is up with you, where they can find all of your amazing work, sir.
Nick, thank you for having me back, man. And honestly, dude, just thank you for your friendship. We talk a lot, and you've brought me in on a lot of amazing conversations that I would not have had if it weren't for you. I want you to know up front, I am so thankful for that, brother. I appreciate you. Man. But yeah, guys, anywhere you can consume content, Prometheus Lens Podcast, just search us up. You'll be able to find us, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, all the things. Same thing with the social medias. Website's PrometheusLensPodcast.com. And just released my first book. If you guys haven't checked it out or heard about it, The Epic of Esau, The Birthright and Seed War. You can get it on my website directly from me, a signed copy there. Bennett's got one. Thank you, bro. And or the digital for 10. And honestly, I think it'll be tomorrow because they told me 10 days, but I have recorded in my voice the audiobook and submitted it 10 days ago. And they said that it could take up to 10 days for it to release. So hopefully tomorrow you can be able to go on Audible. And if you can't read or just don't want to read, you're without an excuse now.
That's tempting now. I want to hear you read that fucking book. Yo, and you know what? For real, all the people, all the Bigfoot listeners for this show, you might actually be interested in that book. So go check that shit out, in case you don't know who he really is, because you're more into the Bigfoot scene. That book, I think, would pique your interest, make you think too. But thank you, Doc, very much for coming on, man. And tonight we got the Secret Life of John Wilkes Booth. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you. This was a topic that I didn't know really, or I didn't know of this situation until I saw you post about it. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. I was like, fuck it. I hit you up about it. And you're like, yeah, come on. So, well, you want to tell us a little bit, I guess, like what even got you onto this topic? What made you think about it?
Yeah, honestly, I always said that I was a history buff. I love history, but I always just consumed, the mainstream narrative. And it wasn't until I started getting into like the biblical topics and kind of widely known conspiracies that I started questioning the narrative and started looking into these other things. And that's something I even say on the show, that I try to take a second look at everything, the histories, the Bible, all that stuff, because more times than not, we've been lied to when we go back and look at it for ourselves. And honestly, I just grabbed a book. I always go to this place called McKay's Used Books down in Knoxville. It's like an hour from me. It's like a 3-story tall building full of nothing but books, old vinyl records, collectibles, video games, all kinds of cool stuff that's in that building. But I always go there anytime I'm around Knoxville, and I always spend at least $100 every time I go. But I found this book, and I'll show you guys this. It's 10 of the greatest mysteries decoded. And it's full of pictures, and it's got like little evidence files you can pull out, like replica documents of the stuff they're talking about. And that's kind of where I found this story, and it kind of piqued my interest. And so then I started deep diving, looking into this stuff. And yeah, once again, guys, there's pretty compelling evidence that the man that we were told that shot President Abraham Lincoln and escaped, and like 12 days later was shot in a barn, was a lie. Surprise, surprise. There's all kinds of, everybody's got theories and legends and things like that, but there's a couple that I found that has a really good paper trail. And I just kind of went down through it and started finding this stuff. And I just kind of did a little show about it on my channel for my paying members. And I put like a little teaser last week on it, but like we were talking pre-roll, I'm one of these guys. I'm like the dog with the bone. I have to know everything. So I started researching, and I even found some authors that's dedicated their life to studying into John Wilkes Booth, Jesse James, and then the Knights of the Golden Circle. So this was a very deep rabbit hole. So I'm really excited to sit down and talk to some of these guys that's dedicated 30, 40 years into this topic. But I've been into it so far for maybe 2 weeks now. And I found a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm excited to share it with you. And some of you guys, it may be old news, because when I shared some of this stuff on my social medias and stuff, I had people saying, man, I've known this for 20 years. I'm like, well, I just found out, bro. I'm late to the party.
It's like, oh, fuck me for trying to put something cool out there. I've never heard of it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we both see what people say on social media, and these are coming from people who don't have a microphone and have even their own podcasts.
Yeah.
Slackers.
Well, this brings up an interesting continuity. So do you think the Knights of the Golden Circle are tied to the Society of the Cincinnati, and then ultimately the Knights Templar?
I'm not familiar with the Cincinnati Society, but honestly, the Knights of the Golden Circle, I had never heard of until this. And so I'm just like, I got to go see all this stuff. But from what I have heard and read, it sounds like it's just an offshoot branch of the Masons. And also it was kind of like a lot of the members, once the organization got quote unquote shut down, just kind of migrated into the Ku Klux Klan movement. But this whole thing was blew my mind. They're like it's a secret society. But what separates these guys is they didn't write their stuff down. They were extremely secretive. So the stuff that we know is just from legends and lore, and or people that has come forward and kind of admitted on their deathbed to some things. But basically, just in a nutshell, these guys, they call themselves the Knight of the Golden Circle, because they envisioned a territory like on a map in a big circle, and they called it the Golden Circle. And what they wanted to do was take parts of Canada, North America, and go on into Mexico and circle around to the Caribbeans and Jamaica and back into Florida. And this was this great big golden circle. And a lot of the men that joined this were influential leaders in politics. They were wealthy farmers and landowners and railroad tycoons. These were the the elites of the time, and they wanted to protect slavery, for one, because they had a lot of slavery workers fueling their pockets, but also they just to keep their business, kind of like a monopoly type thing. That's why they even said it was the golden circle. So they were actually putting these people in this secret society into political office. They were hanging out outside of voting booths and intimidating and beating people to vote the way they wanted them to vote.
Jeez.
And they were even doing what was called filibustering. And I didn't know what this was till I kind of went down this rabbit trail. When I heard that, I thought of, oh, that's when they refuse to vote in Congress and they're filibustering. But what that term actually comes from is people, groups, gangs, whatever, would go and invade a country or town or territory and set up a colony, and then basically just forcefully take it over. And that's what we done with Texas, guys. we moved in and set up a colony, and then we just kicked everybody out and beat them up and took their property from them. And they were actually in the process of doing this in Mexico, but all their plans kind of got thwarted because of the Civil War. And the Civil War threw a big wrench in all their plans.
Well, in some ways, I think this was like the escape route for these Civil War major characters, is they wanted to set up sort of an alternate republical system within the Gulf of Mexico. And to me, it just sounds a lot like the Carthaginians, which had this sort of massive sea empire. You know, they wanted to have towns every 30 miles all the way around the Mediterranean and sort of set up this trade network. And so what they were looking to do is have that same sort of trade network, still processing and putting in these slaves, and, you know, put them all over South America and just sort of take over the place from the coasts, which was, you know, kind of a popular thing to do, especially with the Freemasons. The Freemasons, anytime they would have an outpost in a colony or whatever, they would do the exact same thing that you were just talking about, the filibustering. They would make sure that nothing else could get in, and they were the only ones providing resources. It was, you know, monopolization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And all these main political figures and these soldiers in the Confederacy and things like that, they used this Knights of the Golden Circle as like what's the word I'm looking for? Like what is it called when a snitch goes into protective custody?
Yeah.
They kind of used that. You know, this was a group that had a lot of money, a lot of influence, and they would harbor these people, give them money, send them to go hide out, and they protected them. And John Wilkes Booth was one of those guys.
The Witness
He was
Protection Program back in the Confederate States of America.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But John Wilkes Booth, he was a member of it. The well-known Jesse James was in this group. And once the Civil War broke out, like I said, it kind of threw a wrench in their plan, and they kind of had to divert their attention. And what was wild was when I looked into this, and once again, guys, I'm a Southern man. I have my biases like anybody else, but I am not a proponent of slavery whatsoever. But the narrative that we were given, or I was given as a child, was that the Civil War started out to free the slaves. It was all about ending slavery. And that was a lie. What happened, and this is, once again, once I started looking into this stuff, I found the real narrative was that the Southern states didn't want to vote for Abraham Lincoln. They didn't want him as president. And he was going out and publicly saying, you know, hey guys, I'm not coming after the slaves. I am not a tyrant. I'm not a king. I don't have the rights to take away and say what your state does. The states rule themselves individually, and you can vote for me, and rest assured, I am not going to take away your slaves. And so he got voted in, but when you go back and look, they had the Electoral College back then. He won the presidency without one single electoral point from the South. He got voted in just from that upper North. And we see that even today. So the South was like, our vote doesn't even count. How come that little strip of land up there in New England controls the destiny of the entire country. We're out. We're going to succeed from the Union because obviously our vote doesn't count. And that's what got it all started. And when you go to Abraham Lincoln's inaugural speech, he says it again. All my Southern brothers and sisters, rest assured, I'm going to stand by my campaign promise. I am not going after the slaves. I'm not a king. I'm not a tyrant. The states rule themselves individually, and I have no right to take those from you. So rest assured, you have nothing to worry about, because there was rumors of succession, but they ended up doing it anyway. And they were losing the fight. They were losing funding. They wouldn't get enough soldiers to sign up. I mean, they were losing. So then they drum up the narrative.
Yeah,
one of the slaves to get more people to donate and more people to sign up.
Well, one of the big things that they were using to unify a lot of the abolitionists that had formerly not been a factor in these elections, they were abstaining from voting, is to say that they were going to free the slaves, because the Northern abolitionists were causing a major stir up in the North, and to get them on their side, he had to claim he was freeing the slaves. And what Abraham Lincoln himself said, if I could unite the Union without freeing a single slave, I would. And so you kind of have to look at that narrative a little bit differently. He wanted total control over the United States. He didn't want there to be any balkanization. He wanted to have it as a single union. They were getting ready for their big push out west. He had to have everybody together. And that was a big factor in Bleeding Kansas, for example. Right? So this is one of these precursors to the war, is this massive fight out in Bleeding Kansas to determine whether or not this was going to be a North non-slavery state and a Southern state. And, they fought it out there. And this was where John Brown got his big start. And it wasn't until, later on when he went up to West Virginia that you see another one of these big kickoffs for the Civil War, which was he was attacking a magazine. And he was going to free all the slaves. And in the process, he actually kills a black man. So as he's going towards the magazine, there's a black man there as a witness, and he's got to shoot the witness so that nobody gets alerted to the fact that they're about to take over this military site. So, John Brown's no hero. He was just a scumbag liberal like the kind that we have today. A lot of people don't realize that. Even the heroes that they say were on the North is just, there's not a lot there.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize too is like the northern, settlements, colonies, what they used to be, they were a lot larger territories. And what did they do? They started busting up these large territories into smaller states, and they've done that to create more electoral college votes in their favor. That's why even today you look at a map and 90% of it will be red. Or 80% of it, and you only got 20%, just a couple little blue dots here and there.
Yeah, they take
their candidate wins because
New York
they
is
created all these little states.
If Manhattan turns red, whatever Manhattan is probably going to dictate the whole fucking state. It's fucking crazy. So looking at how it is in New York, you're like, this is fucked.
And they're doing it now just a different way, but they're opening borders and bringing in all these migrants, and where they're saying, hey, we're the ones that let you in. You better vote for us. So they're creating more, so they can't bust up territories and make smaller states and create more electoral college points now. So now they have to flood these already existing states with migrants that are going to vote the way that they want them to. And that's why you see all of the sanctuary cities are all in blue states and blue counties, because they're upping the population to try to increase their electoral votes.
To exemplify this, where I'm sitting at right now in Wisconsin, during the beginning part of the country, this would be considered Virginia. Virginia went out that far. So, I mean, these places were getting, portioned out, and the South was getting left out of everything. That's where all the big block states are. And it wasn't really seen as equal treatment. But in a lot of ways, the South was more advanced culturally than the North. A lot of these European visitors and European, elites wanted to come to the South because it was a much different kind of a culture than it was up north, where they had, again, this immigrant problem and all the rest of this stuff, that they didn't want to get robbed. They didn't want to go to New York. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Gangs of New York, it was like that pretty much all throughout the Northeast. Baltimore, all these places were really rough to go to. The more industrialized city base was not nearly as nice and expansive and quiet as the South was.
Yeah, and if you remember that movie, Gangs of New York, when they went to the harbor, all those Irish and English immigrants are coming off the boat. The Union soldiers were sitting there with a table for you to get in and get your citizenship. You had to sign up for the Union Army.
That's right.
So, I mean, that shows you what a rough shape they were in and doing everything they could to try to turn the tide of the war. So once this happened, once the war was over and Lee signed the treaty with Grant, it was just a few days later. It was on Good Friday. The North and everybody was celebrating the victory and unity. Well, of course, the Southern states that just, lost their shot at freedom that they were trying to get, they weren't so happy. They weren't happy with the situation. They weren't happy with Lincoln. They wasn't ready to celebrate. And so on that Good Friday, he went to take his wife to Ford's Theater. And they wanted to watch this play. It was called My Something Cousin.
My American Cousin.
Yeah. And that's when the night that John Wilkes Booth killed the president. And when I got to looking through that, there was so much stuff that I didn't realize or know. But John Wilkes Booth, he was basically our modern day Tom Cruise. He was a famous, well-known actor. He was known to swoon the ladies. He was a ladies' man, and was just a really famous actor. And I didn't realize it, but he was so close with the owner of the Ford Theater that he even had his mail delivered there. He knew the place like the back of his hand. Well, where he was a member of this Knights of the Golden Circle, him and a group of conspirators got together before the war was over, and they were planning on kidnapping the president and holding him for ransom to get all the Confederate soldiers released. Well, while they were planning all this, the war ended, and then they started working out trade agreements to release the Southern prisoners of war. So then, therefore, his plan was for naught. So he kind of given up, but he went to go pick up his mail, and then the owner of the joint was like, "Hey, we just found out Lincoln's coming tonight to watch the play." And he's like, "Oh yeah, really? Okay." So then he drummed up this thing just on the fly. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna kill this guy." So he went up and drilled a hole in the side of the wall where he could see like a peephole and check things out. And he never even tried to hide his identity. He walked in that night like he owned the place.
He did.
Yeah. And
who would he be hiding from?
Yeah, he said he walked in, he was shaking hands, talked with everybody like everything was just hunky-dory. And he walked up, and of course you're thinking the president should have some security detail. Well, back then, he only had one or two guys. And on this night, they were a couple streets down having drinks with friends. And it says that he walks up, and he knew the play well. And in the third scene, there was this big hit moment where everybody starts laughing and makes a lot of ruckus and noise. He planned on going in and shooting him then. That way people maybe wouldn't hear the gunshots or notice it. But he snuck in. That grand scene, he shot the president. Well, a nearby officer heard the bang and smelt the sulfur and busted in, and Booth ends up stabbing him in a struggle. And they're in this balcony. It's like 12 foot off the ground overlooking the stage. And so Booth, after he does this, him being an actor, he couldn't resist the chance for a final curtain call. He jumped off the balcony and landed onto the stage. But during his landing, he broke his leg. He broke his left leg. But he stands up and turns to the crowd. And of course, there's chaos going on. And he proclaims in Latin, "Thus to all tyrants." And he was quoting from Shakespeare when Brutus killed Caesar. because that's what he said. He said, "Thus to all tyrants." And then he took off, and there he had his a friend of his holding his horse and ready for a getaway. And so they ride hard. I think they said they rode like 14 miles and made it to this tavern where there he had food, supplies, and guns.
Safe house.
Yeah, basically it was like a tavern.
That's cool.
And so they got their supplies, never even bothered. Booth didn't even get off his horse because of his broken leg, but he couldn't resist to tell everybody that he just killed the president. He had to brag about it. And then he keeps riding down further south, and he's in so much pain that he stops and sees this doctor. I'm trying to think. It's I remember his last name was Mudd.
Yeah,
and
the Mud House. I used to drive by that every day for work.
Yeah. And so he went to see him, and he was a doctor that he had known and seen before, because when the doctor seen him, he knew who he was. And he reset his leg.
He's not going south. They're looking for him in the south. That's where they assume that he's going to go. So where does he go? He goes up north and east, or north and west. So he wasn't, playing along with the whole trope. He was going to find a different way to get back to the south, because obviously they had headed him off at the pass. But on the way out there looking for him, they find this guy named John B. Guida, and he was a Italian-born Jesuit that was a dead ringer for John Wilkes Booth. And they kind of knew each other too. And so this is giving me a lot of vibes like the Kennedy assassination, right? Because they had that a police guy who they called JFK because, he was a dead ringer for him.
There was also multiple Oswalds. That's another thing that people talk about. There's multiple Oswalds. Like somebody saw him running up the stairs. Another person saw him like by the grassy knoll. Another person saw him like whatever. There was like multiple assassins. They all like looked the same, and they were all Oswald.
There's a recent picture with Oswald standing close to the Kennedy limousine. So he couldn't have been up in that window.
Right. So that's where like the multiple Oswald thing comes in. So there could possibly have been like multiple John Wilkes Booth, like, to throw people off the trail. But, it's interesting to me with this whole Knights of the Golden Circle thing, and then quoting Shakespeare, and, Lincoln was doing seances and shit at the White House. It was conjuring shit. Definitely into some weird stuff. And also they say that Lincoln had some form of like weird gigantism, and he was probably descended from some weird motherfuckers.
He mentioned the Giants in one of his speeches.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Niagara Falls.
It wasn't like he was just
Nephilim
really
shit.
Yeah, right. Nephilim shit. It's not like, he was just a really tall guy and he liked to wear these top hats that made him look like a fucking magician. No coincidence there. But no, he had some kind of weird gigantism, and he was like half retarded or something like that.
Probably had fingers and toes removed too.
Yeah, he probably had a cleft lip, cleft palate, like Joaquin Phoenix, that got fixed over time.
Pen pals with Karl Marx.
Yeah, right.
He was pen pals with Karl Marx.
That's what I'm saying. He was into some nefarious shit, and so probably was John Wilkes Booth. Oh, somebody already commented "beehole." The podcast is complete now.
Nice.
It was a great episode.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember that one? Were you there for that, Bennett?
Yeah, I was there for that one.
Yep, I was here for it.
It's beautiful.
Lincoln.
So in the Mud House.
No, I wasn't here. I was in the chat.
You were in the chat. Yes.
Did Dr. Mudd fix his leg?
Yeah. Dr. Mudd, he reset his leg, and what was crazy is he knew John Wilkes Booth. He was part of the conspirators that were going to kidnap him, but he had no idea that he killed the president, because like I said, this was a last minute thing. He was like, I'm just going to wing it. And like Headless said, you know, he kind of went north for a little bit before he started going
into
south.
Maryland, right? They
Yeah.
went into Maryland first.
Because he was panicked. He was freaking out. He's kind of playing it as he went along because it wasn't planned. This was a spur of the moment thing. And so the doctor reset his leg, let him stay at his house. And he went to town the next morning and he seen the Union soldiers and everybody talking about, oh, the president was just shot last night. And he was just like, oh my God, he did it. He did it. So then he goes back and he's like, hey, I'm not going to rat you out, man, but you cannot stay here. You're going to, you know, implement me in this. You got to go. So they pack up and they take off. And then here's where they go to that farm. What was the name of that farm? I got it in my notes, but
it was the Garrett farm.
Garrett farm.
Yeah.
And the way the mainstream narrative,
farm.
the mainstream narrative is that they go to this barn and they stay with this family for 2 to 3 days. And even when I first heard that, I was like, this is a guy that just killed the president. He's on the run. He's not going to stay somewhere 2 or 3 days, man. He's going to be wanting to be moving. I mean, that's how I'd want to be. I'm like, I ain't sitting still. I'm moving because every day I'm sitting still, they're gaining on me.
Yeah.
And they said that on that night that somehow the Union soldiers found out he was there. And what I had heard through some people was that this family, this Garrett family, had found out who he was, what he done, and they played it nice and sent somebody out to town to tell the Union, and then told them, you know, hey, we know you guys are doing some nefarious stuff. You're just going to have to sleep in the barn tonight, and tomorrow you're going to be on your way. And supposedly they locked them in the barn, the tobacco barn, until the Union soldiers showed up, and that they burned the barn down to smoke them out. And his co-conspirator George comes out with his hands up and surrenders. And they say that John Wilkes Booth come out with a rifle in hand, and he was shot in the neck and was killed. And that's the mainstream narrative that we're given. And what I'd found going through here was that the man that they killed was not John Wilkes Booth. And they believed it to be this guy named James Boyd.
Yeah.
And can I do a screen share?
Sure.
Yes, you can.
I wanted to show you guys this picture of this guy. That way people can kind of just see the comparison here. Let's see. Is that the plus button share? Yeah.
Yep.
Share.
Now there's something to be noted here about the tobacco barn, because tobacco barns are classically all open, right? They have to let the air circulate around the tobacco so that it can dry out properly, and it takes about a year for it to dry out. So these things are open all the time. There's no way that you can lock somebody in a tobacco barn, because all they'd have to do is slip out one of the open ports that are open all the way around this thing. So
yeah, there was hundreds of doors and they were all on hinges, and they swung open to let the breeze in to air the tobacco out. And this guy right here, this picture, this, believe it or not, is not John Wilkes Booth.
James William Boyd.
This is James Boyd. And you cannot tell me that this is that dude's doppelganger, bro.
Yeah, they look a lot alike.
And then some people want to say, you know, well, if this is the man they killed, how did he wind up in the barn with that George guy? Well, they interviewed all these different soldiers that helped them cross the river and to get to this farm and set him up there. The Unions found him and beat him and questioned him till they spilled the beans. This Boyd guy was a Confederate soldier. He also was in the Knights of the Golden Circle, and he aided Booth into crossing the river and getting him a ferry and setting him up with these Garretts. And when Booth went to pay him for his services, for helping him, he realized his wallet was missing. And he told Boyd that he had left his wallet on the ferry, that if he would go and retrieve his wallet for him, he would pay him even more money if he'd bring it back to him. So they go on to the barn, and Boyd goes to retrieve the wallet and the money. Well, during this time, they said that Booth became anxious and didn't want to stay there. And George didn't want to go with him. So he went on his own. He left. Well, while they were waiting for him and he took off, Boyd returns with the wallet and the money. And it was late at night. He had nowhere to go. So he stayed in the barn. And that was the guy they killed that night. And this guy's a dead ringer. And when they took his body to I can't remember the name of it. It was some kind of military ship that there was a doctor there. And they took him there for an autopsy and examination. And the doctor was Frederick May. This guy, Frederick May, was a physician of Booth. And just a year or two prior had removed a growth from the back of his neck. So he knew him well. When May seen the body, they called him to identify the body. When he first seen the body, he said, "This is not John Wilkes Booth." And then his family still has his records. And in his records, he said when he seen the body, it looked nothing like Booth. And that he had a broken right leg. All the accounts said he broke his left leg, not his right.
You
So
think
they
they broke his wrong leg after they shot him to make it look
Yes.
like it? Because I was gonna say, wouldn't you just have to see if this guy had a fucked up leg? You know, just to make sure if it was the real Booth or not. So they broke
Yes.
the wrong leg on some fucking hurry up cover job sloppy bullshit.
This
Yeah.
is like the
They
flap
didn't
of
even
skin.
bother to break the right fucking leg. They
I was
broke
trying,
the
like, leg on
wrong
his
fucking
stomach.
leg.
When they broke
This is like the flap of skin on Kennedy's forehead that they cut open. It was so obvious, but you know, everybody kind of passes it over. What are you gonna do about it?
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. When I seen that, I was like, the guy that operated on his neck knew him well, said, no, that's not him. And then even in his own notes states that the wrong leg was broken. But then later the people that want to go with the mainstream narrative and says, oh, well, he later recanted after he got to looking at it closer that the guy had a scar on the back of his neck. And yeah, that was where he removed that growth that he had. And he later recanted once he got a better look at him. Well, no, the government probably put a gun to his head and told him, you know, hey, our president was just killed and the killer got away. And we're not going back to Washington and say that he got away. So we need some stability in the country. And I'm not going back to Washington saying that we screwed up. So you're going to say this is him.
You
They
want to hear my
just
normiest
needed
take?
the bad guy. It didn't matter. Like they just needed to get the bad guy.
They ran across somebody that looked like John Wilkes Booth on their way searching around for him, and they shot him. And then they're like, well, he does kind of look like John Wilkes Booth.
Not a good day to look like John Wilkes Booth.
No.
Not at all.
I
He
mean,
does look like him, though. I mean,
he does for sure.
I mean, he does.
Some of his descendants and like other researchers have like attempted to get the body exhumed, right? To do DNA comparison, but I find it weird that all the requests have been denied.
Yes.
I mean, I understand.
Why wouldn't you want to know?
It's not like they exhume bodies all the time on a regular basis, but you know, if the family, like descendants, are actually requesting, let's do it.
Yeah. And they actually have a piece of the spinal, the vertebrae of the cadaver that they killed that they believe is John Wilkes Booth. It's put up like in a museum or archive somewhere. And it even has the bullet hole through it. And they even studied that. And they said that the guy that in their reports that shot John Wilkes Booth was like 5'4" or something like that. He was a short guy. And that Booth was like 6 foot. And they said, so when they shot the guy examined that vertebrae and said it was at a 20-degree downward angle. He said there's no way that guy made that shot because he's shorter than him. It'd have been going up instead of down.
This is like the argument I make for the fake Paul McCartney. How the fuck did he gain like 3 feet? The real Paul was like super short, you know what I'm saying? And then the accident happened, and then he like all of a sudden was 6 foot tall, and people, you know, don't know that because how many times do you fucking get to meet Paul McCartney? He's not just going to be at Walmart one day like, oh, you're super fucking tall. When did that happen? Nobody, the general public is not going to know that.
He puts those things in his shoes. Okay.
You know what I'm saying though? It's like with this cadaver thing. It's like the real John Wilkes Booth is super fucking tall, but this body that they found is like 5'2", right? But the general public is not going to know that. Nobody knows how tall John Wilkes Booth is. Like that's like obscure information.
Yeah, and when I got to looking into that, like I said, I found a couple of theories that show that he lived, you know, like 40 years after this incident.
Yeah, till like the 1900s.
Yeah, and there's a couple of them. There's a bunch, but there was a couple that really like grabbed me and was like, man, this is plausible to me. And a lot of people got to wrap their minds around the 1800s, man. There was no internet, there was no telephone. All you had was eyewitness statements on people and drawings of wanted papers. News didn't travel fast. It would be very easy for you to fake your death and slip away into oblivion.
Oh yeah, and I think Joseph
very
Smith
easy.
Yeah, people did it all the time.
Mm-hmm. And this guy, what I found. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, do you know like if or what he like changed his name to or like anything like that?
Yeah, there were several. And like I said, the one that I found that I thought was really compelling was right here. It says that a 90-year-old woman, this is, you know, hundreds of years later, but it says this 90-year-old woman named Janita Kelly. She was a living relative of Louisa Payne, and she decided to spill the family secret. And she said, quote, "My grandmother's sister married John Wilkes Booth, but they were already married when he revealed his true identity." And she went on to say that the name Booth was going by at the time was John St. Helen. Yeah. And says shortly after they were married, Booth came clean to his wife, Louisa, and she was so flabbergasted, being the Christian woman that she was, she demanded that they go back and remarry and refile under the correct name. And according to Franklin County, Tennessee, their court records show in the marriage registry that John Wilkes Booth married Louisa Payne with his signature on it, matching from February the 24th, 1872. And that's 7 years after the supposed assassination.
Pussy will do that to you. Make you go back and fucking redo your name after you've assassinated the president. Like, come on.
Make you come out of hiding for that, right?
Right. Come on.
Yeah. And when I seen that, I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So then I followed this thread because it was in Tennessee. I was like, oh man, this is home court here. I got to kind of look this out. But it said that this was a closely held family secret until Kelly came forward. When she was asked why she was coming forward now, she said, it was not talked about outside the family. She said, but I'm coming forward now because I'm 90 years old. And besides, all the people that would have gotten into trouble over it are long gone now. So after they got married, they moved off to Memphis to start their new life together. And it says that Louisa became homesick after a few months and that she wanted to go back home. And that Booth told her, well, go ahead, go on in front of me. I'll stay behind. I'll work a little more, save some money, and I'll come back to Middle Tennessee and we'll buy some land and build a house and we'll start our new lives together. Just go on ahead of me. And so she goes back home, but Booth never returns. And he ends up going to Texas, according to this storyline. and befriends this guy, Phineas Bates, who's a lawyer, and his great granddaughter has his records and the family stories that he befriended this John St. Helen, and that he becomes sick, and on his deathbed confessed to Bates that he was John Wilkes Booth, and he wanted to come clean before he died and wanted him to know. Well, he ended up making it through the night. He didn't die. But when Bates went back to check on him, he was gone. He packed up and left. And they said it was a few years later that Bates had seen an obituary in the, I think it was Oneida, Oklahoma paper, and it had the name of John St. Helen, and it matched his, how old he was and everything else. So he wanted to see if this was him. So he travels up to Oklahoma and goes to the mortuary where he was being held. And the mortuary said, oh, are you his family? He's like, no, I believe he's a friend of mine, but I wanted to come and be sure. And he said, well, come and identify the body, because nobody's come forward to claim the body or identify it. So you're the only person we got. So come look at him and verify who this is. And Bates went in and he said, without, any kind of second thought or hesitation, that this is John St. Helen. And then when he got to talking to some of the people that, found his body and everything, that he, once again, thought he was dying, and confessed to the people there that he was in fact John Wilkes Booth, and that he supposedly killed himself by drinking arsenic. And the arsenic, they didn't know what it was. They just thought he died. They found out later, because when they embalmed the guy, mixed with that arsenic, it petrified and mummified him. So it perfectly preserved him, froze him in time. And nobody would take the body, so it was given to Bates. And Bates takes it home and puts it in his garage. And then he tries to even sell it to people. Yeah.
That's interesting, with the dead motherfucker in the house.
Yeah. And he tries to sell the corpse, the mummy, to people, and says, oh, this is the famous John Wilkes Booth. And he even almost sold it to Henry Ford. He priced it to Henry Ford for $1,000, and he almost bought it, but he backed out last minute. So Phineas Bates dies with this petrified mummy in his garage. So when he died, his wife tries
something
to
about
sell
the
it.
name Bates, man.
Yeah, exactly. And she ends up selling it to a traveling carnival, like a freak show.
Shit.
And this body toured the United States, and you can see it for like a quarter, all the way up till like the 1970s, and it suddenly disappeared, never to be seen again.
Man,
Yeah.
They strung lights up on him and decorated him like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, right?
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
They
25 cents. Come see the John Wilkes Booth, who faked his death and lived many years after.
So he was mummified, sold to a circus, but we're not allowed to dig up the cadaver body. Like,
Right.
How is this okay? How is it okay to have a human mummy in your house and sell it to a circus, but we can't exhume the grave? Like, what the fuck? This is so sacrilegious, anyways.
Are we sure this isn't the myth of Osiris? Are we getting a little bit of Masonic mythology here? Because this is sounding really strange. Like, almost like each one of these phases are planned out and mythologized in some way.
So what did they do? Like, after the circus act or whatever, they just used him for like firewood or something? Like, did they ever bury the corpse or what?
Disappeared. They don't know what happened to it.
Disappeared
The
equals
feds got it.
firewood. Maybe.
Yeah.
They
And so
grounded him up and turned him into toilet paper.
or something, right?
To wipe
Oh,
somebody's
it wasn't-
bleeding butt. Peach.
It wasn't cocaine in that White House when they found it. That was
right.
actually John Wilkes
John
Booth's
Wilkes
body,
Booth.
all ground
right.
up, and they were sniffing it.
Bastards.
That'll get you high every time, but it'll give you a pain in your left leg for some reason.
Yeah, not the right one. The left.
Not the
Left
right one.
leg.
Yeah.
That's the twitch.
Ooh.
Yeah. And another one that I found that was really interesting was that he supposedly stole the identity. So this was modern day identity, or I misspoke. ancient identity theft, but he stole the identity of an Englishman. And let me go down here and find his name. John St. Helen. Oh, and I forgot to mention, when he moved off to Oklahoma, he had changed his name and went by David E. George.
David George, yeah.
Yeah, and it appears to be a code. Two of Booth's conspirators were David Harold and George E. Azeroth. So it's like he took the two names of his buddies and combined them there. But let's see. Okay. Yeah, like you guys had mentioned, in 1994, they petitioned to have his remains exhumed to have DNA testing to put all this stuff to bed, because there's a lot of people that come forward and said that they were children of Booth from relations outside of marriage while he was on the run, but supposedly dead. And so they wanted to do the DNA testing to put this to bed. And at first, the judge agreed. And then later, someone unknown petitioned and talked to the judge, and then he changed his mind and he pulled the whole thing being done. But Chuck Hubert, he was a John Wilkes Booth researcher, and here's what I was saying. He claimed to pull off what we call identity theft today. He stole the identity of an Englishman that was visiting Indiana at the time, and he was named John B. Wilkes. So very similar, but he was born in Sheffield, England in 1822. But there he stole his identity and went to India and remained there until his death in 1883. Chuck also believes Booth returned to the United States in 1873 and was photographed. And they have a photograph of John B. Wilkes during that last visit, and it looks identical to Booth. And I have that picture too.
Shit. Let's check that out.
Images.
That
It
sounds like Knights of the
is-
Golden Circle shit, because he's down
Yeah.
there in South America.
Well, and just think he had, being an actor, oh man,
Sorry.
I can't even talk when I read that. Damn, what was I saying? Oh, because he was a good actor, he could do an English accent. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess he could probably
Sure.
pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, even being the actor, yeah. I mean, how could he? Yeah, of course he
Yeah.
can impersonate people.
So what are we
Mhm.
looking at right here?
That is the two guys, the John Wilkes Booth and
Ooh.
John B. Wilkes.
Yeah, see, this is like the.
Oh, wait a
the-
minute. No, I lied to you.
Yeah.
that is the other guy.
Yeah,
the
that's
boy.
Oh,
the
I
guy
was
they
gonna
shot.
say
But
Hang on a minute, I
this
picked
is
the
the
wrong camera.
comparison between John Wilkes is on the left and the other guy, the
the,
what the hell
the
was
Boyd.
his name?
cadaver.
Boyd, yes.
James Boyd.
James Boyd was on
It's
the right.
this one. This picture.
So what
here.
happened? Did James Boyd not have any friends or family, or did they not notice he was gone? What?
He was an unsavory fucker. If nobody noticed, he was
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
missing.
what happened during all this time, they've even documented it. It's in the records. He was a Confederate soldier, and he was captured and was a prisoner of war. And they petitioned to have him released, and he was just recently released. And that was the
Oh,
last
damn.
documentation that they had of the guy. Was right around this time of the assassination that he was set free. But
Yeah, that
that's
makes
the
a lot of
guy
sense.
from the Englishman.
They all have the same like mustache and receding hairline thing going
Yeah.
on.
Well,
And
the
I
whole
hope
British
Mark
thing
don't get
brings
mad,
up.
but don't he look like Mark, Mystic Mark from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy?
Got that
I
curly
think he's a
hair.
descendant of John Wilkes
Yeah,
Booth.
that hair, yeah.
So the British connection really interests me because a lot of people say that the British were bankrolling the South, and that they were invested in this Knights of the Golden Circle idea to kind of
Mhm.
break up the Union.
Yep.
So if he's throwing his lot in with the British and going by this British accent and everything else, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He had the money and the ties of the Golden Circle And you got to remember, this is another rabbit trail, but it kind of ties in, was the Confederates. They had their capital up there in Richmond, right there on the border of the North. Well, the last stand, Robert E. Lee was trying to hold them back. And he told Davis, you know, it's a losing battle. It's just a matter of time before they get past our men and they hit the Capitol. So Davis told him, just buy me 24 hours. Give me 24 hours to get my cabinet out and to save the Treasury. And it was documented in today's money. There was $200 million in the Confederate Treasury.
Whew.
So he gave him 24 hours and he loaded up 9 trains with his cabinet and all of the money and started heading south. And here's where you get this quote unquote conspiracy. Now, this is all happening at the same time with the John Wilkes Booth stuff. Okay. They stop off in North Carolina and they have a log. Well, don't quote me on the number, but when they stopped in North Carolina, they stopped off for a minute and then traveled further south. But the logs reflect that there was the equivalent of like $20 million gone that got unloaded there. Then they go down into Georgia. They make another stop. Once again, here's another $40 or $50 million missing from the logbook. So it's like every stop they took, it kept dwindling down. And that they finally make it to their destination and they deposit the money into this bank. And the deposit note was for, I want to say like to the equivalent today of like $50 million. So there was $150 million missing from this ride. And they say that he handed it over to members of the Knights of the Golden Circle. And they hid it all over the country as stashes because they said they wanted to have enough money put back for when the South rose again. They'd have enough money to have an army. And then you have all these treasure hunters to this day talking about the mystery glyphs all over the world. And even Jesse James is tied into this. You find all of these symbols and coded language that is known to be associated with the Knights of the Golden Circle, and its treasure maps leading to all these stashes is the tale. So they had all this money. It would be nothing for them to shell out some money to send somebody that's helped them, and it's a brother of theirs, to start a new life in India.
Well, all over Missouri, they have caves that they claim Jesse James stashed his gold in or stashed his money in. But, you know, that whole thing really smacks of the Knights Templar, because if you know about Oak Island, you know, they've got these huge treasure vaults and, you know, this whole treasure train and all the rest of the stuff about the South Rising and Grand. Very, very similar to that. And just recently, they took down the Robert E. Lee statue, and inside of it was a time capsule. And you can watch on the video, it was on live video, this woman is going through all the artifacts inside of this time capsule, and she pulls out a postcard by the Knights Templar inside of the Robert E. Lee statue. And she lifts it up, and you can audibly hear her say, "Oh no," because they're not supposed to talk about that, you know. But there it is, right there in the.
It's like, how did this get here? What?
Well,
you gotta like play
mythology.
it off.
Right? She knows the mythology, and she doesn't want to get bogged down with that because, again, this is one of the oldest conspiracies in the United States.
And
this also sounds like the plot for National Treasure 2.
Or it'd be like National Treasure 3
you
or
know
4
why?
At this point now.
Because one of the main consultants for that movie was Bob Brewer. And he's a world famous treasure hunter. And you know what he's famous for? Hunting and finding these treasure troves from the Knights of the Golden Circle.
Yeah.
He's the expert on all these symbols and stuff. And
that's
so
why,
National Treasure reached out to him, and he was a consultant for that show.
Well, you've got, so you brought up Oak Island. The guys in Oak Island were also looking for the one of the stashes of Confederate gold that allegedly sank in Lake Michigan, like some of the barges or something. So that's a pretty crazy one. There was a deathbed confession and all kinds of stuff going on there. It's a crazy story too. Anyway,
they call them sentinels because the money they give the troves to these guys, and they call them sentinels, and they were to guard this with their life. And then when they died, or was close to dying, they would have to pass it to another sentinel, which was their son or something like that. And it's a good possibility that some of these kids would be like, I don't believe it's junk, or I ain't doing that. And they wasn't thinking, because when they were making these carvings in these stones and in these trees, because they'd done a lot of them in trees, it's been, 100 years, 150 years. Those trees that were once eye level are now way up here, and you can't even see them anymore.
Right.
But to corroborate that whole story with him going to India, there's a lot of people that say, oh, well, you can just make up anything. But there's a document trail with that one also. When he died in 1883, this was 18 years after his supposed death, he was executed in India for a crime. But before they killed him, they allowed him to leave a last will and testament. And in the will and testament, I'll read you some of the stuff here. And I kind of told you a little bit about this pre-roll. But in his will, it says $25,000 to Ogarita Rosalie Wilkes. And it says in quotation, natural heir of my body. She was Booth's daughter by his wife, Isola. Then
These
another
names,
20,
man.
yeah, another $25,000 to Mary Louise Turner. And it says in quotations, natural heir of my body. This was the daughter of John's mistress of the time of Lincoln's murder, Ella Turner. And then it says $1,000 a year to Henry Johnson, quote, a free Negro to whom I owe my very life. Johnson was Booth's personal valet who helped him escape up to Harper's Ferry in West Virginia. So why would an Englishman living in India care so much for all of John Wilkes Booth's wife's, girlfriend's, daughters, and valet?
Yeah.
That's a good fucking question.
Uh-huh.
I have a question too, though. How do we know that they didn't set this whole fucking thing up for the other guy to get shot instead of him? Like, that was part of the plan all along. And Boyd, or whatever the fuck his name was, just didn't know it. He was like an unwilling participant in his own death kind of thing.
Yeah, it could have very well been.
Because you know what I mean? It's like, for him to have this life
Sacrificial
after.
lamb.
Well, yeah, because it's like he went on to live this kind of exotic life. He's going here, there. He's married to this person, that person, changing his name, going to India. It's like it was set up for him to get away, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's
Which,
the thing,
by
is
the
like,
way,
you get these
I
secret
don't
societies
think, right, but it's like with Oswald, I don't think the body that's in the casket that they buried and said this is Oswald, I don't even know if that's actually Oswald, and it's just like some dude that they fucking killed, and oh yeah, we got him, guys, we shot him, he's dead. Like, they fake a lot of this stuff, even going back to Civil War days. I still think they were faking people's death and shit and fucking covering stuff up. So I mean, just saying.
Good, you use blanks for that.
And it was proven on a lot of them that they were faking their deaths back then, because like we said earlier, it was very easy during this time.
Easy.
Jesse James faked his death like 6 times.
Yeah, one thing I keep coming back to is how lit it would be to be on a conspiracy podcast in the 1870s. I mean, holy fuck, dude. They had all the good shit back then.
Did you guys watch Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
I did.
Oh, parts of it, yeah.
It's quite entertaining.
I liked it.
It's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
You telling me
Lincoln. It's a fucking Nephilim president, man. That's it.
But like,
tearing shit up with freaking vampires.
What we don't know is part of the John Wilkes Booth story is that they were actually all hunting fucking vampires.
Yeah, could be right.
I actually really like that movie. Every time I ask somebody if they watched it, they ask me if I'm retarded or something. Like, it's like, why would you even watch something called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? But it's actually really good. And they
And
do
actually, the cover is
include
really cool with him sitting in that chair. with the
right. Yeah,
hats
and he's
like
got like
this.
his
He's like,
axe and
oh
shit.
yeah,
But
chopping
yeah,
down.
I think
killing
that
people.
he did live a double life, though. I don't know if he was a fucking vampire hunter, but I do think he led a double life. Lincoln did. I think that
He was
this whole
gay.
thing probably.
There were rumors.
He
He likes
spent
it
6
in his
years.
giant Nephilim beehole. He just likes to get it plugged with.
We always come back to this.
He spent 6
Yeah.
years
That's what
sleeping in the
happens with
same
Julia.
bed as another dude. So you telling me he
That's so
wasn't gay?
weird.
Give me a break.
Didn't their
It was
son
just,
die?
it was just a
weird,
sign of
though?
the times. Headless.
Probably. But
I had a friend send me a reel today. It said more proof that the giants are real, and it showed these guys like in this ship pulling up something from the bottom of the ocean, and it was a huge like iron butt plug. I was like, "Are you serious?"
literally
Yo,
Nephilim
I
butt
saw that
stuff.
shit. I saw that shit.
Yeah.
But didn't the Lincoln son die weird too, like at a young age or something
Yeah.
like that? And
Yeah,
there's
he had,
like
like, a
some
blood
weird stuff
disorder.
around. Yeah, see, that
weird.
comes from the weird Nephilim bloodline. Those blood disorders and the
Extra
butt stuff.
toes and
Yeah,
extra fingers.
Genetical malfunctions.
I actually know a guy who has 6 toes.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. For
I
I
know
know
a guy that had
Yeah.
6 fingers, but
I
he had
think
it
he
removed
did.
as
He
a
did
young
have 6
child.
fingers. Yeah.
I was told extra digits removed in plastic surgery is a lot more common than
Yeah.
expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I want another blood type too. Just
what'd you
saying.
say about the blood type?
Yeah. So they're probably all Rh negative.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, I think I heard something about O
Saying.
negative being significant
Well,
too.
it could be.
Like the royal
Here's-
family kind of covets the O
Yep.
negs. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just who knows? I mean, that's a whole nother episode.
But
Another
I
couple of
do
episodes.
I do have suspicions though about Lincoln. I mean, like his weird height and like the seances and shit
Oh yeah.
at the White House. Their kid
Well,
died.
his wife
really
did a lot
young.
of weird stuff too.
Right.
Look at
and
the
then
Lincoln Monument. I mean, they make him super huge. They put him in this Roman style temple at the end of this reflecting pool. Like there's
All the
almost
fascias.
right. There's something really religious about that place. And they were going for something that it was an ancient religion with the entire layout of Washington, D.C. So having
well,
that.
they made him a giant as if
Right.
symbolism wasn't enough for them. They have to like take him and make him a giant that looks over everybody. And it's,
Sitting there looking
And he's
at an
facing down that
obelisk.
water
Sitting there looking
vaginal
at an
wall. And
obelisk.
the phallus.
I can't even say it.
Do you know the significance of that reflecting pool?
That's a vaginal wall.
Well, it could be,
Or the
but yeah,
obelisk, maybe.
there's high level goddess
obelisk is
magic
pee-pee.
going on there. So during the ancient Roman days, they had this place called the Diana's Mirror, right? This was the district for Diana, and they had this big reflecting pool, and this is talked about in James George Fraser's Golden Bough. This was where they would have the Golden Bough ritual, where they would have the death of a king ritual, right? And so Diana Nemorensis was the name of the goddess there. And this Diana Nemorensis ritual would take place where a escaped slave or, some other prisoner would go to this grove and then pull a bough off of the top of the tree. And then the old king of the grove would have to fight this new guy, and whoever killed the other one would become the new king of the grove, right? And what we see in Washington, D.C. is we've got this statue on top of the Capitol building, which is highly emblematic of kind of this Diana Artemis character, right? So we've got Diana Artemis right there on top of this, Isis's belly, right? in front of the Washington Monument, which is clearly a penis. And then you've got the great big old reflecting pool right there, which is part of this Diana Nemerensis ritual with the sacrificed king of the grove at the other end of it.
Wow. I've not heard that. I always heard like it was kind of like an imitation of the Egyptian magic, like how the pharaohs were the embodiment of the god Osiris, and how they had that ritual where they would bring him into the temple, and then when the shadow of the obelisk went into the domed temple where the pharaoh was, it was a conception, and therefore Osiris was born into his body and kind of possessed him, and he came out the god king. And that's why we have that whole presidential thing that, you know, he meets in that womb and they have their, you know, consults, but then he moves from there to the stage in front of that phallus and gives his speech and stuff. So it was kind of like, I've always heard that that's like a remake of that. I hadn't heard that. That's wild.
In this book, The Golden Ass, this is a 2nd century Latin, sort of like a pulp book that they had fiction back then, right? So this is really old. It goes back to that time period. They still have the cults of Isis and Osiris active in the 2nd century, right? So this stuff was not foreign to that time period that they're depicting in Washington, D.C., right? They had all of those cults sort of merge into organizations like the Freemasons, the Knights Templar, all these other, you know, sort of secret societies kept that stuff moving. And those are the people who founded America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's all that stuff like,
of it all.
Ooh. So
do you
somebody
think like Lincoln actually was assassinated too? Like, just in my opinion, my humble opinion, and you guys can disagree with me, I think a lot of this stuff even back then is like fake and staged. I mean, literally an actor shot him, you know what I mean? It just makes me wonder if he even is dead at all, because there's like this, he became like almost like saint-like after his death, and Honest Abe and all this, and he was actually like a pretty unsavory motherfucker. Like, he wasn't like this stand-up guy that he's made out to be, but in death he's kind of like become this you know, Honest Abe, and he was so great and all this
That's
stuff
everybody,
is like,
though, honestly. Once you die, you
yeah,
become
for
famous.
sure.
You're so great then, you know.
Right.
Well, that's the point. That's the point of the ritual, right? Is it makes everybody sad, and it lionizes the victim, and it changes the trajectory of history, you know. And if you have you ever heard of King Kill 33? This is a popular one back in the late 70s, but I think it was all about how the Freemasons were the ones who killed Kennedy, going along with this King Kill 33 ritual, which comes directly out of The Golden Bough by J.G. Frazier. So they're talking about that back then, and then you look at the architecture of Washington, D.C. and how it matches up with all of these different factors that are going on, like especially the Virginia flag. Right? You've got this woman with her breast exposed. She's standing on top of a guy saying, "Thus always the tyrants." And that was made way, way, way back in the day. But like that same sort of spirit is carried through this assassination. There's a definite callback to some of the, you know, earliest times in American history going through these different characters.
Yeah, because that's exactly what he said.
Like, look at these two assassinations, right? Lincoln and JFK. Before JFK, and there's a quote by Lyndon B. Johnson, and he was like, "Oh, we'll have those N-words voting Democrat from," you guys know the quote, right? Before that, it was like everybody kind of held Lincoln up as this like savior of the slaves, and he free, and you know, it was like everybody vote Republican because he's the one who freed us. And then it was like JFK also assassinated, and then Lyndon B. Johnson's like, "We'll have those N-words voting Democrat from here on out," or something. It's like some weird cultural shift, but both are marked by huge assassinations that like changed history forever. So are they really dead? I don't know. Is it like an agenda to like push narratives and make people saint-like, because JFK is also like saint-like after he died?
Both of these events are also accompanied by communism. There's a lot of Marxism that goes in and around these characters. Like, Lincoln was writing to Karl Marx. Like, this was the start of what Marxism was, is their whole exchange back and forth. And then what we see in the 1960s going on with all the hippie movement and all the communism and liberalism then, these are revolutions that are taking place. We're just seeing from the outside instead of looking at the whole picture.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the Civil War, like I said, it wasn't over slavery. It was over a kingly tyrant force. There was one section of the country with a bunch of rich elites that was controlling the destiny of America, and the southern states stood up and tried to rebel, and they squashed them back into submission. I told a buddy at work, I was talking about this. I said, imagine if you had a girlfriend and you guys were together and happy, and all of a sudden she comes home and says, she's unhappy, she doesn't want to be with you anymore, and leaves. That's kind of what happened here. But then the boyfriend goes after her, smacks her around, blacks both of her eyes and bloodies her mouth, knocks a few teeth out, and drags her back home. And now we're going to live all together peacefully and happily.
Fort Sumter.
How does that work?
Right. Well, I think what really kicked it off was Fort Sumter, because they're saying, look, you can't have this Union fort in the South. This has got to go.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to go. And they're like, well, you got to get the fuck out of here. So they attacked Fort Sumter back before Abraham Lincoln, and nothing happened. So they thought they could do it again and nothing would happen again. But that's what kicked off the whole thing. And, people were out there at Bull Run actually picnicking over the battlegrounds, because they thought, oh, well, this is just going to be a short thing. We'll go out and see the battle and it'll all be over with soon. But it wasn't. And it just kept escalating and escalating. People didn't want to believe that it was actually starting,
Yeah. The Civil War, that was the death of the Republic as we know it.
Yep. States' rights.
So John Wilkes Booth's descendants or whatever, he had some kids, right? Like, how do you, like, did they know? And if they knew, how do you even tell people that? Like, you go to school and you're like, my daddy killed Abraham Lincoln. Like, how do you keep that a secret? I mean, do you think that they knew?
I think that it was just, that was, information didn't travel so far back then, but that was, big news, the president, in the Civil War. So I don't know if they just went to homeschool or what, but definitely the descendants were not proud of it. Like the great-great-grandchildren, that was something that was like the family secret and taboo. It was
but
not
if you think about it at the time, they were probably like kind of, my dad killed especially if they were from down south. Probably revered a little bit.
Hey,
like Jesse James, he was a hero to the lower class citizens, because they made him out to be the Robin Hood. So according to where you's at, some people love Jesse James.
Yeah, so maybe the
others
kids,
hated him.
Maybe some of the kids.
Well, guys, I got something to confess. I'm actually John Wilkes Booth.
Oh my God.
So none of you guys believe me. Why would they believe them back then? I mean, everybody knows what happened to John Wilkes Booth.
I see where you're going with that. That's very true. I mean, you could say anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's hard to believe that, especially back then. It's not like there was a conspiracy theory podcast you could listen to. If somebody said, like, my dad's John Wilkes Booth, they'd be like, okay, what kind of crap are you on?
And then started screaming about bee-holes.
Right.
Which I've seen a documentary, and somebody threw up the possibility. They said, well, what if, or how easy would it be? John Wilkes Booth in the South was a hero to a lot of the Southern people. And he was already a famous actor. He was a handsome guy. They said the ladies just kind of swooned over him, that he had, these dark eyes and could, manipulate people and kind of put a spell on people. He was just, really a charismatic guy. How tempting would it be for a young man to go down south and tell some girl that's totally out of his league, be like, hey, you may not realize it or not, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Kind of a big deal if you didn't know it.
Knock up a bunch of girls and leave town. And they're like, oh, yeah, I met John Wilkes Booth. I had his baby.
Yeah.
Who's reading the medical report that says that he broke the wrong leg? You know, those things
Yeah, it
were
was,
That's
kind
what
of
I'm
obscure back then.
saying.
May.
That's what
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
saying.
Robert May, I think was his name.
So
Right,
somebody in
but,
the
I mean, who's
comments
reading
made
that?
somebody made a
Nobody's-
comment about Pascal Beverly Randolph.
Boom.
And dude, if you just telling everybody out there, if you guys don't know who that is, wow, that's a freaking rabbit hole to go right there.
He brought sex magic to America.
Yeah, basically.
And you're saying Wilkes or Abraham Lincoln was friends with this person.
Right. Somebody on there said that Lincoln was, but I could find I couldn't find any links, but you know, that doesn't mean it. I'm not like some, you know, wizard or something that can.
Well, he went on to make Beverly Hall, right? Beverly Hall up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there's
all of
definitely
the
some
elites went out
overlap there, but whether
All
or
of
not they actually knew each other, I don't know. But there's definitely some overlap, especially when you get in that they were in the same circles. And I mean, both Lincoln
think it
and
was
his
an
wife
Epstein.
were deeply curious about spiritualism and stuff like that because of the tragedy with their son and other shit. So I mean,
Like I remember reading somewhere that his wife, well, I think one of you kind of alluded to it, but I've not looked into it, but I've heard more than one place that she was kind of witchy. She
Yeah.
was known
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do like seances, contact the dead,
Yep,
and all that kind
exactly.
of stuff.
really because she was trying to contact their son. I think was a lot of the driver force, but that's all it takes, man. But Lincoln was also known to have like prophetic dreams as well. That's another story that I see in there a lot. And I think there's a story of him having a dream weeks prior to his assassination that he was gonna get assassinated and how it was done. Like he dreamt it.
He was
Something
at his
like
own funeral, and he was asking people about who was in the
That's
casket.
what it was. You're
him.
right.
He was a Davy Crockett, you know, the famous Tennessee pioneer, you
Yep.
know, from my state. I did a show with Dr. Judd Burton a while back, and I did not know this, and I felt ashamed because he was from my state. But when I was writing my book, you know, he was like, hey, did you know that two of your pioneer heroes from Tennessee had Bigfoot encounters? He said Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone
And Daniel Boone.
had one. And I said, no, I didn't. And he did a show with me, and he was saying that Davy Crockett, when he went to Texas to fight at the Alamo, on the way there, he said that a hairy humanoid human, that's how he described it in his letter, because he wrote a letter back home and described this hairy, you know, covered in hair human, approached him and spoke with him and said, Davy Crockett, go home, go back to Tennessee. You will find nothing but death here. And he actually wrote that in his letter and sent it home. He said, maybe I ate some bad meat or something, but I saw this. And then he went on to Texas to die.
This is what a lot of Native Americans say about the Bigfoot is that they're messengers, right? And whether or not you're scared of them or not determines on whether or not you're going to get the message. So what they'll say is if you bring a Bigfoot encounter to a Native American, they'll be like, yeah, what did he tell you? You're like, tell me. No, he was just scary and I ran away. But Daniel Boone's having the experience where he didn't run, he was calm, and then he gets this message that was a prophetic vision. So like we probably don't have the Bigfoot thing in perspective at all.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I mean,
I
there's
love it.
so many
Be sure
stories
to
about
pick up
natives.
the Epic of Esau.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Right. Shameless product placement. So there's tons of stories from, I mean, dozens of native tribes that talk about them trading and communicating and whatnot with, you know, nothing. You can't describe it as other than Bigfoot, but they were in tribes. And they just called them, they were another tribe that lived in the area. So, I
The
mean,
forest people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feral giants, ain't that right?
Feral
Bennett?
giants, right?
I think
So-
they're probably a lot like how people depict the Mothman being some kind of harbinger of doom and a messenger of whatever. I do have to say though, and call me an asshole, but I was listening to this like conspiracy radio show the other night, and there was this old guy on there, and he was like, "I've been to a Bigfoot wedding, and I've seen Bigfoots give birth, and I've seen," and it's like I'm sitting here, the host of a conspiracy podcast, going, this guy's on fucking crack. Like, there's no way he's like going to Bigfoot weddings and like there's too much. There's like a line
There's like your
for
bullshit
me.
meters.
Right,
It's
right. It's
redlining.
because when you tell somebody you have a conspiracy theory podcast, they're like, oh yeah, like Bigfoot and like Area 51 and stuff. And I'm like, actually, that's like the least that I ever talk about ever. I mean, it's, I appreciate it when people have cool stories to tell about that stuff. But for
Exactly.
me, it's like, it's hard for me to think like somebody's out there just barbecuing in their backyard and a Bigfoot walks up and is like, you want to come to my wedding? And like I don't right, it's hard for me to comprehend that, but I do think they could be some kind of spiritual being, like I said, a lot like with the Mothman thing. I think that they could be like interdimensional type beings. I don't know, they're having weddings and just inviting random dudes from their backyard, but it's weird.
No footage of any of this, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
No
It's like,
videographer at that wedding.
sure.
It's the worst when it's like, I've even had that happen on my own show where the person's like, I can't tell you where it is, and we have no video footage of it. And I'm like, I'm supposed to just fucking
Show me the video then.
Well,
I guess that
he's got pictures of it. It's just he had his thumb over the camera lens the whole time. So
right.
it kinda
Yeah. It didn't get backed up onto the cloud. I don't know what happened, but it's like, I don't know. Just some things are hard for me to wrap my brain hole around, but like stuff like what we're talking about right now, that's my favorite kind of stuff. Like serial killers, was Lincoln actually assassinated or not? We'll never know. John
Or an
Wilkes
actual
Booth,
vampire hunter.
was he an actual vampire hunter? That's shit that I can get on board with.
I wanted a selfless plug too, but I guess it's really not for a product or an episode. On Halloween, I will be dropping I have a vampire lore, but it's a little bit more of a twist on it. On where I think some of it may have, at least the vampire that I'm describing in that show, where I think it may have came from.
Dude, the stuff you
I
sent
want to
me
do a
was
show with
great.
you on that for sure.
Oh yeah, that's right, Bennett. I sent you the script to look at.
Yeah, it was great.
Because I wanted you to know what the fuck I was talking about in case I came on.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's very interesting. Definitely check it out when it drops. It's I don't know. It's one of my theories on it at least. But all right, sorry, keep going, guys. Was there anything else you wanted to add anything, Doc, or were you pretty much?
No, that was just kind of like I said. I just found this, like 2 weeks ago, and I'd found those two stories and kind of how it correlated with the Knights of the Golden Circle. But I am diving deeper. Like I said, I've met this guy. Name's Dan. He has researched nothing but Jesse James and his 73 aliases and his connections with the Knights of the Golden Circle. And I actually, he said he'd come on the show and talk with me, but I talked to him on the phone just last night. We talked for almost 2 hours, man. I love this dude. He's right up my alley. We're in the same lane on a lot of stuff, but he even told me last night, which I don't know the story behind it, but I'm just going off what he said. But he said, yeah, I looked at your channel because I sent him an email, and then he gave me his number. He said, I see on your channel you recently done a show on John Wilkes Booth. And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, you know how he really died, right? I said, I've heard a few stories. I said, one sounds pretty promising. I said, I wonder if it was the Oklahoma arsenic poisoning. And he said, that's what I believe it to be. He said, but he didn't commit suicide. And I said, huh? And he said, Jesse James poisoned his drink. He said, because the Knights of the Golden Circle knew that the Union and everybody was close on his tail, and he was about to be apprehended, and they were afraid he was going to squeal. So they sent Jesse James, because he was there in the area, to go and kill John Wilkes Booth. I was
Put
like,
arsenic in his
whoa.
drink and turn him into a fucking mummified, Cheeto puff.
Mhm.
Right.
I'm sure that wasn't part of the game
Sideshow.
plan. But that's how it happened.
Traveling freak show.
Right? The fuck?
Carney.
Crazy.
Who knew Wilkes Booth was a carney?
Oh, my God.
There's a story
Party.
because I lived in Oklahoma for like 13 years, and there's this story. You can go to the grave site, and there is actually a haunted bed and breakfast, but they tell
Nice.
this story of a guy who somehow got mummified and was sold to the circus, and they hung him up, and nobody knew who he was, and they kind of buried him as like this nameless, faceless guy. And I just find it odd that it's in Oklahoma. You're talking about Wilkes being in Oklahoma, and there's this urban legend about a guy who got turned into a mummy and sold to a circus. And now I'm thinking, it fucking John Wilkes?
Maybe
That
it
was
was.
him.
That's
It's like-
possible.
That
Holy
was him.
crap.
Like, I'm
Calm yourself
serious.
down.
It's like the realest shit.
Wow.
Fucking Oklahomans. I'm from Oklahoma.
Damn. They're crazy. You know,
I mean,
like over half, or what is it? Like 2/3 of Oklahoma is federal land.
Whoa. Yo, I
Yeah.
was in federal prison in Oklahoma that literally was underground under an airport. Yo, this is crazy. You
What?
went from the fucking plane. You're shackled with another. This is crazy. I don't even. First, you get stripped before you even get on the fucking plane. So you're naked. They check you. You get fucking your shit. You put your clothes on. You get connected to somebody else. Now you're on a plane. I don't know how the fuck you're picking up anything on a plane. You go on a plane. You fly to Oklahoma. You get off the thing and you go straight into the fucking ground. Nothing. You're not touching anything, and you still got to get fucking stripped again. How the fuck did I
What
pick
the
anything up?
fuck?
From where? You just want to stare at beeholes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
That's
it.
part of the
You got to
ritual.
bring it back to the beeholes for you.
You
It's
gotta
the-
see
it's
the
the-
beehole.
the,
You gotta
uh,
spread
that
it
was
too.
wild. And
What
it
do
is
they call it?
gigantic.
Just in case there's the inside job, man, because
Crazy.
even the conspiracy with Billy the Kid, supposedly the guy that captured him planted a gun in the outhouse and then left to go gather the gallows wood. And then when Billy went to the bathroom, he suddenly had a gun and killed the guy watching him and escaped. So
He
maybe
put
they
an
thought somebody
entire
give you a
gun
razor
in
blade
his-
to put up your butt.
Oh my god! But how do you put an entire gun in your beehole? Like that has gotta be. I think
Doesn't
I'd
have-
rather shoot myself with it first than put
They
it
got
in my
those 25
beehole.
autos, those little Colt 25 autos. They're like that big, maybe.
But do you put it in sideways, or do you have to like? How do
Mm.
you? I'm just saying that sounds like
Desperate
hell on earth.
times.
Yo, how do you
Call
think they
That's
got
for
some
some?
kind of
desperate
fresh
measures.
fucking hell.
Yo, for
Yeah.
real, Julia, how do you think in Spreadle Prison they get some of the cell phones in there?
My God, is it like an iPhone 15 or is it like
I
a
mean,
Galaxy
I mean,
Note?
no, I mean,
like
they-
I
It's only
want
like
to
a-
know.
It's an old flip
Cheap
phone, I'm
flip
thinking.
phones, but I
Okay.
mean, still. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just
probably
so
like
crazy to
You know
me.
how much money that is? Well, I mean, still, I wouldn't do it for that.
What,
It
like
would
a flip
suck if it was a
phone?
Yeah,
BlackBerry.
it's probably hundreds.
How the
of
BlackBerry
dollars.
slid open and just got wider.
Oh,
Nice.
quick, somebody call me.
Yeah, right. Fucking on
Don't
vibrate.
vibrate.
What we don't know is right before John Wilkes Booth got mummified, he definitely had some stuff shoved into his beehole. But we'll never know about that because he
They
got
were using
petrified
his
and sold to the
corpse.
circus.
They were
Yeah,
using his
they,
corpse to
conversation
smuggle
just-
gold.
Went south.
Mhm.
No pun
Yes.
intended.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. We're there. Knights
Yeah,
of the Golden
that's
Circle.
Oh, you know what thing I was going to ask?
Brown
Golden
circle.
circle.
Knights of the Brown Circle.
Knights of the Golden Balloon Knot.
That's all, folks.
Yeah.
That's a place to wrap it up.
I actually had a serious question. I fucked this all up. And only because I think we've had a guest come on about this before. I could be wrong. Did you ever hear of Knights of the Golden Horseshoe?
I've not.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a
Yeah, that's
connection.
actually pre American history because that was the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe came from the College of William and Mary, right?
Yeah,
So it's the OSS?
or whatever. It was like that. I gotta get him back on again.
They went over the mountains. They got really drunk, and then they came back with these little pendants, and people have been searching for the pendants ever since.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
it
think
was
we
just
had a
one-
guest on talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So-
Washington,
yeah.
Virginia conspiracies. I love
Yeah,
Virginia.
so what popped
Right.
up was the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe were a real but largely symbolic group formed in 1716 by Governor Alexander Spotswood in colonial Virginia.
This is the initiation ceremony for all these different dudes. This is the start of reinvigorating the Knights Templar in America, I think. Because again, Knights Templar, the horses, Knights of the Golden Horseshoe, these are the distributed artifacts from that expedition. Sounds very Templar.
All right, yeah, but I think we'll wrap it up there, though. If you guys are all right with that. Actually, and to plug it real quick too, if anybody's going to be in Arkansas, Saturday and Sunday, there's a paranormal expo there. It's at in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's some museum, military museum, 2 floors, 2 days. Come check it out. The Occult Rejects will have a booth there. I'll be doing interviews and shit. I'll probably be recording some of the speakers or whatever. We're doing interviews with them. Come check it out if you're in the area. It's for 2 days, and if you really want, and I know I've said this before, it's worth $10 in itself. Saturday at 2:00, there will be grown-ups actually doing Bigfoot calls, so you can come down and check that out for a good laugh. And then you can come and check me out and kick it with me. I'll smoke one with you if you come. So come on down if you're around. That's enough out of me, and I will let everybody start plugging their show and all that. But Doc, thank you so much, man, for coming on. Like I said, I didn't know anything about this. Julia, I'm pretty sure she was telling the truth when she said she didn't know anything about it. I think this was really interesting, and I really liked it. And I definitely think the viewers did too. Doc, why don't you let everybody know, please, where they can find your amazing show?
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk, and I appreciate the panels and having the back and forth. And even when we derail, I enjoy it thoroughly. I've smiled so much tonight. My face hurts, guys. So thank you. I needed that. But if you guys enjoyed that and these type of conversations, I'm doing them 2 or 3 times a week. Just check me out anywhere you can consume content, YouTube, and all the fine things. Just search up Prometheus Lens Podcast. Once again, the website, PrometheusLensPodcast.com. Pick up a copy of the Epic of Esau, Birthright, and Seed War. And hopefully Friday, the audiobook will be available on Audible. So fingers crossed. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. And Bennett, let everybody know what's up.
Bennett from Broadcasting Seeds Podcast. You can find me wherever podcasts are listened to, YouTube, Rumble, the whole thing, or broadcastingseeds.com. Thanks.
Oh, of course. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on, man. And the Headless Giant.
You know me, you know where to find me. I'm the Headless Giant, and it's great to see you again, Julia. Thank you for coming on.
Awesome. And last but not least, Julia, please let everybody know what's up with you.
If you haven't found me yet, you never will. And I will say this, I'm picky about what podcasts I listen to. Obviously, I listen to the Occult Rejects, but one of my favorite shows is the Prometheus Lens podcast. I really love the topics you choose to cover and, your perspective on everything. I had no idea about this stuff tonight. I learned a lot. I think the listeners did too. Nick, thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, I will say, Doc, I'll have to admit, you're one of the few podcasters that will actually be like, oh, fuck, that was a good one. Damn, I'm jealous.
Oh, man, I appreciate that.
I was like, oh, fuck, I wish I could make reels like this, dude. Nice, But definitely check out his show if people haven't. Banger of a show. Thank you all for coming on. I really had a great time tonight. It's a really good laughs. And again, that was all new to me. So I appreciate it, Doc. It was awesome. And everybody in the chat, that's what's up. It seemed like everybody was here commenting, was here from the beginning to the end. That is what's up. And I really appreciate it. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.